Today on Max Kelly's Vegan Cooking Show, we're going to be making donuts. We're starting with 390 grams or about a cup and a half of unsweetened vegan milk of your choice, and we're going to add 1 stick or 113 grams of melted salted vegan butter. Stir that all together and check the temperature. You're aiming for lukewarm, so let it sit for a few minutes if it's too hot, or pop it in the microwave or on the stove if it's too cold. Now add your milk butter mixture to the bowl of a stand mixer and add a 1/4 cup of granulated sugar, half a teaspoon of kosher salt, a tablespoon of egg replacer powder, and 2 teaspoons of instant yeast. Stir that all together, then add 270 grams or about 2 1/4 cups of all-purpose flour and mix that on low to medium speed until you get a mixture with a batter-like consistency. Now add another 270 grams of flour for a total of 540 grams or about 4 1/2 cups. Mix that with the dough hook on low for about 8 minutes or until you get a wet, sticky dough that starts to pull away from the sides of the bowl. Remove the dough from the mixer and transfer to a work surface that's been dusted generously with flour. Don't be afraid to work in some extra flour here. This could be a little or quite a lot depending on temperature and humidity. Knead the dough by hand for a few minutes until it feels elastic but still quite sticky. Then let it rise in an oiled proofing container for about an hour or until doubled in volume. Now gently deflate your dough and turn it out onto a floured work surface. Roll it out to an even thickness of somewhere between 1/4 and 1/2 inch. To make classic ring-shaped donuts, use a 3-inch pastry cutter to cut around, then use a 1-inch pastry cutter to make the hole. You can also use a standard-sized drinking glass for the round and a shot glass for the hole. To make filled donuts, just don't remove the hole. Cut out as many donuts as you can, then gather the excess dough, let it rest for about 15 minutes, and repeat. This recipe makes about 2 dozen donuts. They taste best fresh, so you can leave some of the dough covered in the fridge for up to 3 days, or wrap it tightly in plastic wrap and freeze it for up to 3 months. Once you've shaped your donuts, place them on a lightly floured surface and cover with a damp cloth, allowing them to proof at room temperature for about 45 minutes. We're going to be making some Boston cream donuts, so while they're proofing, let's make a vegan pastry cream. We're going to heat 1 15-ounce can of full-fat coconut milk in a pan over medium-low heat until the fat melts completely. Now add 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract and about 3/8 of a cup of granulated sugar and stir that to combine. Measure out 3 tablespoons of cornstarch in a separate bowl and mix it with a few tablespoons of your coconut milk mixture to make a slurry. Pour in the slurry while whisking steadily and keep whisking until the mixture thickens and develops a glossy sheen. Shut off the heat and add about a teaspoon of soy sauce. It sounds crazy, but it adds some of the savory and salty notes you'd get from egg yolks in traditional pastry cream, plus it darkens the color slightly. Just set your pastry cream aside at room temperature for now. Now to fry the donuts, heat about 2 cups of neutral tasting oil in a heavy pan, Dutch oven, or wok until it reaches 375 degrees Fahrenheit. You really want to use a thermometer here, as it takes the guesswork out of cooking times and will help keep your donuts from burning or undercooking. Once your oil is at the right temperature, fry the donuts in batches of 3 to 5, cooking about 60 seconds per side for rings and 90 seconds per side for filled donuts. You can also fry the holes. Just keep turning them in the oil so that they cook evenly, and they should be done after about a minute in the oil. For glazed and filled donuts, you want to let them cool and drain on a sheet pan or plate lined with paper towels. But for classic cinnamon sugar donuts, just mix up equal parts cinnamon and granulated sugar and toss your donuts in the mixture immediately after frying. The hot oil will help the dry toppings stick. When you're done frying, shut off the heat. Try not to ignite your paper towels in the process, and remember, always smother a grease fire with salt, never water. To make a standard glaze, start with a cup of powdered sugar and add vegan milk about a tablespoon at a time until you reach a thin, runny consistency. Stir in about a teaspoon of vanilla extract and that's it. When your donuts have cooled, just dip each side in the glaze, let the excess drip off, and transfer to a plate to let the glaze set. To make a chocolate glaze, follow the same recipe as above, but add about 2 tablespoons of cocoa powder. Here I'm using 1 each of natural and Dutch processed cocoa powder, but feel free to use either. You may also need to thin the mixture slightly with milk to get it to the right consistency. You can use the chocolate glaze for ring donuts with or without sprinkles, or for the main event, our Boston cream donuts. Once the glaze has had time to set, whisk your pastry cream vigorously to remove any lumps that may have formed, and transfer the mixture to a piping bag. You can also just use a large zipper bag with one of the corners cut open. To make an opening for the filling, pierce the side of your donut with closed kitchen scissors, then open them once you reach the center of the donut. Now insert the tip of the piping bag and squeeze gently until the donut is completely filled. The donuts will keep for a day or two at room temperature, but they taste their best for the first few hours after glazing and filling. Enjoy! Now you might be wondering, what do I do with those last few scraps of dough? And I'm so glad you asked. Just divide it into 50-gram balls, dust each ball generously with flour, and roll it out into a thin disc, almost like a tortilla? That's right, we're making donut tacos. Let your discs rest for about a half hour and heat some oil to 375 degrees Fahrenheit once again. You can use a shallower pan this time if you prefer. Fry your discs one at a time. They'll inflate almost like pita, so either poke the air pockets gently to deflate them or wait until after frying and they'll deflate naturally. Fry for about 45 seconds on each side or until nice and golden brown. You can put anything you want in them, but here I'm using vanilla cashew ice cream, grilled peaches, toasted walnuts, some caramel sauce, whipped coconut cream, and a little bit of fresh thyme. It might sound like a gimmick, but it's truly a cross-cultural taste explosion. Your friends will stop to take pictures of them. But don't just take my word for it.
Oh man.
Yeah.
So good. Holy